When Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was announced last June, I remember thinking, here's a title that reminds me of some of my favorite games of the last 30 years, with a gorgeous art style I've never seen before, from a brand new development team. And here's the thing, we've heard that story like a million times, so as positive as I tend to lean on games in general, I was a bit skeptical. Sue me, I've been hurt before, okay? I have trust issues. But the closer we got to launch and early previews started to paint a very pretty picture, I could sense that developer Sandfall Interactive was onto something special. Cut to April of this year and the game is selling gangbusters to the highest praise imaginable, but the question on everybody's mind, I know, is did Gianni like it? So let's find out. Set in and around the fictional city of Lumiere, Clair Obscur takes place in a fantasy world that bears a striking resemblance to early 20th century France. The people of Lumiere live with a terrible curse in which year after year, a monolithic entity known as the Paintress counts down one number at a time, effectively ending the existence of anybody in the world with that corresponding age. Every year, groups of Lumiere citizens venture out into the wild and beyond to figure out the monster's motivations and effectively put an end to her once and for all. The player takes up the role of Gustav in preparation for his journey on the titular Expedition 33, all while grappling with his own losses at the mercy of the Paintress. This setup presents some super interesting thoughts to chew on surrounding our own relationships with our own mortality and what we do with the time we're afforded. With that premise in mind, from the very beginning of my 45-hour playthrough, I knew that I was going to experience something epic. Clair Obscur takes you on an incredibly emotional and moving journey through examinations of grief, loss, parenthood, and guilt. The story goes to places that I never would have expected, with instances of levity mere moments after gut-wrenching devastation that in any other title might seem out of place or forced, but here they just work so well. Every interaction carries tremendous impact on the character dynamics and the plot overall, so no scene or context feels bloated or out of place. Even lore collectibles of expeditions past carry weight in building the world of Lumiere into a fantastical but entirely believable setting. To top it off, Sandfall casts an impeccable lineup of AAA voice talent, lending to some of the best character dialogue and delivery I've personally experienced in years. We've got Charlie Cox the Daredevil, Jennifer English from critical behemoths like Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring, the megastar Andy Serkis from like every blockbuster movie of the last 20 years, and industry bad boy Ben Starr, aka Clive Rossfield. You could not have cast a more perfect lineup of actors to carry an already immaculate story. I could keep gushing about how this game impacted me on an emotional level, or how strong the writing is, but I would be here all day. So let's talk about what it's like to live and breathe within the world of Expedition 33. The best way I can describe the moment-to-moment gameplay loop is that it exists smack dab in the middle of a turn-based RPG and FromSoft Venn diagram. The game utilizes classic turn-based combat systems, skill trees, and overworld exploration while implementing Souls-like defensive strategies, difficulty levels, and stat scaling. The exploration and combat flow is fairly straightforward as you make your way through small dungeons in the world map, looking for hidden treasures, item vendors, and enemy encounters to increase your stats as you progress through the story. Fighting foes at the onset of the game takes some getting used to, as Sandfall's expectations for how to approach encounters is kind of unclear in the opening hours. There's a lot of systems to learn, and to top it off, every character has their own mechanics affecting how they play. For example, Gustav has a charge drive that he builds from turn to turn, utilizing mostly electricity to unleash massive power attacks, while Lune stacks different elemental spirits to boost her moveset in interesting ways. However, once I got the core strategy figured out, the combat became impossible to put down. The general idea for all party members is that every move in their arsenal is designed to empower another move, and the key to success is learning when to use certain abilities and keep stacking your firepower. Between your own turns, you'll need to memorize enemy attack patterns to either dodge or counter, buying yourself more time to survive and possibly do extra damage. These maneuvers play out in real time, so breaks during battle are few and far between, and some of the patterns get so intricate that when you finally execute a string of button prompts for the perfect nuclear counterattack, there's this immense satisfaction that you typically only see in Souls-like RPGs. And nailing what feels like an insurmountable enemy attack to only do it again and again and again and again, man, it's truly something special. It's this push and pull and intermingling of genres that makes Expedition 33's gameplay so refreshing. It mixes enough of what makes both genres so unique without leaning too far into one and inadvertently alienating fans of the other. Adding to the complexity of the combat system are your buildcrafting mechanics. During the course of the game, you'll unlock hundreds of different passive abilities that can be assigned to your characters in 2 different ways, as either Pictos or as Luminas. Every character is given 3 slots for Pictos and dozens of slots for Luminas, and abilities carry different values depending on which tree you assign them to. For instance, if you assign a passive as a Lumina, you'll just gain whatever perk is assigned to it. This could be something as simple as extra base damage or fire damage resistance. They can also be shared among all characters, so in theory your entire party can gain the same perks if they have enough of the appropriate currency to slot them. On the flip side, if you assign an ability as a Picto, then you not only gain that passive benefit, but you also get a significant stat boost. This could be higher agility or extra defense. The caveat here is that if you assign a Picto, you can't assign that same Picto to another character. This means that only one character can take advantage of the stat bonuses. It's a really fun and customizable system that rewards you for finding crazy perk combinations, resulting in some seriously brain-melting damage. The one thing that I do have to mention here though is that the menu interface where you do all your team speccing, it's really busy, it's hard to maneuver through, and it's difficult to know where your cursor is located. It took me time to get used to, and the cumbersome prompts led to a lot of purely accidental navigation. Overall though, I didn't let it drag down the rest of what felt like a really well-designed experience. When you're not absolutely demolishing minions of the Paintress, you'll be running, swimming, and flying across dozens of gorgeous biomes reminiscent of JRPGs of the 90s and early 2000s. Sandfall did an excellent job crafting a love letter to the games of my own childhood, specifically bringing to mind elements of Square Enix's golden years. The expansive overworld map, hysterical references to RPGs of years past, and my personal favorite, the fixed camera treasure rooms, were great touches that show the appreciation the development team had for their influences. And the attention to detail in building impossibly bizarre scenery that somehow make all the sense in the world is what's most impressive. I always think of those dev diaries where studio heads say, we really wanted to make room for our team to design a world where nothing was off limits. And then you play the game and you're like, okay, this is pretty cool, but I thought you were gonna get a little bit weirder with it. Well, this game gets really weird. So much so that for the sake of transparency, I should mention that 90% of the B-roll in this video is from the opening act of the game, just because there were so many jaw-dropping dungeons that truly need to be experienced firsthand. Now, exploring inside of these biomes can warrant a few criticisms regarding the lack of a minimap and difficulty getting your directional bearings, as there are sometimes multiple branching trails with little environmental clues differentiating them. I also noticed some spotted issues with textural pop-in on some of the bigger maps, with some really noticeable pop-in in the overworld. But outside of these minor gripes, I thoroughly enjoyed looking into every nook and cranny available. The best part is there's always something worthwhile off the beaten path. Whether it's new weapons, new abilities, secret bosses, or expedition lore, every pathway leads to something varied that'll benefit your party, and exploration is never overwhelming to the point where you get frustrated by the options and move on. And for the checkbox sickos like me, if you really want to immerse yourself in the world of Gustav and the expedition team, there's hours upon hours of lore-dense side content and mega bosses that can be completed post-game. I mean, some of the best story beats I experienced were in optional missions. I'm literally hours deep into extra content after rolling credits with no end in sight or any signs of losing steam. Lastly, I need to touch on one aspect of Clair Obscur that ties the whole project together: the audio. Good lord, if nothing else, let this game win all the accolades for sound design and soundtrack. Aside from its context within the actual plot of the game, the way Sandfall and lead composer Lorien Tassard utilized interconnected musical themes to evoke emotion and recall specific memories and character traumas was truly masterful. Tender exchanges are soft and comfortable, victories are epic and triumphant, and even the implementation of silence in breathless moments is outstanding. And when paired with combat mechanics, timing your sound cues to execute the perfect parry fulfills a power fantasy unlike any game in recent memory. Every weapon impact and spellcast carries a remarkable weight that makes you feel the progress you've made during your playthrough. So, there's been a lot of discourse about Sandfall Interactive and the triumph of developing a critically acclaimed game for your first project. And by no means am I saying it's not a monumental feat for a small dev team to lock in, produce an entirely unique title that touches on equal parts nostalgia and innovation, and not only nail what they set out to create, but do it on their own terms. I think those hurdles are definitely worth recognizing, but I don't subscribe to the belief that we should hold a development team to a lower standard just because they've never brought a game to the market. What seems the most monumental, at least to me, is that this game doesn't have quote-unquote first game DNA on it. Does it have a couple of little areas of opportunity? Sure, but if you had told me this was developed by a AAA, industry-defining studio with hits upon hits upon hits under their belt, I'd believe it. The level of polish, honor, appreciation, and love entwined in every element of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 makes it not just a masterpiece among first-time developers, but within the industry as a whole, and I firmly believe it deserves a seat at the table of all-time greats.